Now, are the seed companies going to be running out of seeds again? That's a great question. Hey everybody, Chad here with Health and Homestead. And I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on society lately. Things are taking place. We're living in the midst of a worldwide pandemic. We're living in the midst of social unrest. These things were prophesied in the last days. We're seeing them take place. I mean, it's looking at the news is like looking at the book of Revelation and the prophecies of the book of Daniel. It is an incredible time to be alive. I'm happy to be alive. I know that Jesus loves me and He loves you also. But I want to look at this. So are vegetable seeds starting to run out? Well, actually, let's go back through a little bit of history over the last few months and then look at actually what is going to be likely happening, both they're telling us in the news and the seed companies are actually saying. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But let's start by going back in time a little bit. And you may have seen this. An article came out some time ago with the headline, "Vegetable seeds are the new toilet paper." Now, let's stop there for a moment. Now, if this was 1 year ago and you read an article that said, a title of an article that said, "Vegetable seeds are the new toilet paper," you would think, what? They're using seeds for toilet paper, you know? But now you know, oh, no, I know what that means. People were buying toilet paper like crazy, right? And so you understand this is what was happening. Earlier this year, seeds were literally just running out from the seed companies. Why? Because once again, there was a global pandemic going on. Once again, people weren't allowed to go to work. Sooner or later, if people can't work, what would happen to the economy? Well, you can just give people money. Well, you can do that, but sooner or later, money won't have a value. The Bible actually prophesies that sooner or later, the money, Revelation chapter 18 tells us the money comes to naught. That means to nothing. Sooner or later, I'm not saying it's going to happen directly because of this. Maybe they'll be able to help things rally, and I hope so. Hey, I hope things go well for the world. And you know, I'm not here saying I only know what the Bible says. I'm not date setting, but the reality is sooner or later the money will come to naught. But just people around them, they may not even be thinking prophetically, but they're like, man, there's a worldwide pandemic going on. There's, you know, we're seeing that I may have to grow my own food, so people are buying seeds and buying seeds. Well, what ended up happening, they were buying them like toilet paper, meaning they were buying them to the point where they were literally just running out. And then beautiful butterfly flying, that's not computer generated, that's really there. But nevertheless, so here's from NPR, National Public Radio, where they say coronavirus is worsening seed shortages for farmers and gardeners. Now, once again, this is older. We're starting with some history of this year, and we're going to move on to the present time right now, what's going to potentially be happening very soon, according to the news and according to the seed companies. But we're going back through some history. And so coronavirus is worsening seed shortages for farmers and gardeners. Now, that seems to be happening. It was happening earlier, and by and large, probably the farms actually did okay. They were able to buy the seed that they needed, but there was somewhat of a shortage for seeds earlier in the year. Now, seed companies can't keep up as more Americans turn to growing their own food. So the news, CBS is saying, hey, we're seeing it. People are growing their own food. Now, I think this movement is wonderful. People are looking for freedom, and there's freedom in the country, and there's freedom in growing your own food. There's nothing more human, just feeling like a human being, than growing the food that you eat. We are living in this totally false, make-believe world where we imagine Walmart will always be there for me. They would never leave me. They'll always have the food that I want. They might always have the food. Maybe Walmart will always be there. Maybe there'll always be enough food on the shelves. But if the time comes, according to what Revelation says, that money comes to nothing, and also there's a time where it's difficult to buy or sell, and then there's a time where you cannot buy or sell, according to Revelation chapter 13, this, you can imagine that people will want to learn to raise their own provisions, for in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. And that's a quote, by the way. So let's think about this. Seed companies, they haven't been able to keep up with it. Garden seed sales hit record levels, slowing and stopping orders. Now, what was this talking about? So garden seed sales have just, like I said, they've skyrocketed, they've exploded. One of the companies that I was reading about was having 4,500 orders from gardeners a day. 4,500 orders a day. I mean, you can do the math. If they were only getting $10 per order, that's a significant amount of income, and I'll bet a lot of people were significantly more than $10 a day, especially because they were stocking up because they thought, boy, this looks like Armageddon. And I'm not talking about it fulfilling Armageddon, but you know, people are looking at it that way. So what do we see? They began to struggle, and because of that, it slowed down. And some of the companies, for instance, Baker Creek Seeds, or with their website rareseeds.org, I think it is, or rareseeds.com, one or the other, they ended up having to actually shut their website down multiple times, and they were warning everybody. They're like, hey, we're going to have to shut down our business today because of this COVID issue. We have to clean things up, and we need to try to just restock because we're running out of seeds. We're running out of seeds, and that's what happened. And they never ran out of 100% of their seeds, but many of the varieties ran out for sure. They haven't gotten them, and many of them are still not in stock yet. And obviously, many of them, they'll be regaining their stock later on this year. And then, you know, then we talk about what will happen next year. But that's the thing. To go even further, companies like Johnny Select Seeds, they've got a, can you see it? The, look at that, beautiful. Hopefully it's in view, but you got a butterfly on me. That's, wow. God's good, huh? I mean, living in the country. There's so many blessings that come from here, and maybe I taste very good, but hopefully anyway. But so companies like Johnny's Selected Seed, they had to end up, so they're a company that ships both to farms, so a large quantity of seeds, bulk seed sales, and also secondarily, they sell to people like myself. I'm not a commercial grower, and so, but I just received some seeds from them this week, last week, something like that. I think this week, yeah. Probably this week, doesn't matter. But nevertheless, but earlier this year, what happened is, since it was becoming so tight on seeds, they actually had to stop selling to people like me. They didn't stop selling to the farmers. They said, we need to stop selling to people who are not commercial growers of food, because we want to make sure that there's enough food for the actual farmers, or seeds rather, so that the farmers will have enough to grow, so there'll be enough food and they'll be able to, you know, make a living and so forth, because the common man was just buying up all the seeds. Now, makes perfect sense. I understand why they did it, but it also just gives you, and it gives me, if you don't happen to be a commercial grower, a recognition of what could happen very rapidly. They could shut down our ability to buy seeds which we may need to grow our own food. And so this could be very serious. So what do? I mean, I guess, you know, could we just give up? No, I mean, we could do what farmers have done through all of human history up until about the 1850s or 1900, where we could do, if once we buy them, what could we do? It's not like they're created at a big business. They actually are grown by another farmer somewhere else, and we're just paying another farmer to do the work for us. And don't get me wrong, it's easier to just buy them, and it's even cheap sometimes to buy them. The reality is my arm is tickled by this butterfly, but sorry, I'm getting my mind off the subject here. But nevertheless, you can imagine that if we learn how to do the things that humans had to do throughout all of history, I mean, since Adam until today, if we lived like humans lived, we'd find a fulfillment, we'd find a freedom, we'd find a connection to the earth. We would actually lower our chances of having potential allergies or maybe even autoimmune disease, especially the research shows with allergies. I'll share with you some research in another video on that, on working in the soil and what that does for lowering allergies for people. We've gotten away from these things. And so what we're seeing is people are moving to the country, and many people even in the cities are buying the seeds. And so what do? Well, what we do is we get back to living like humans have always lived. And you say, Chad, isn't that a lot of work? Yeah, it's a lot of work. I can't lie to you and say that this all got planted on its own and the weeds just took care of themselves. No, actually, it did take a ridiculous amount of work, but you know what? It's unbelievably fulfilling. It is incredible to put my hands in the soil, to lift a shovel and and dig a hole and plant a fruit tree, various fruit trees, and to make a compost pile and not be just wasting the things that we eat, but leaving them to actually give us nutrition for next year, or nutrients for the soil and bacteria and mycorrhizal fungi or fungi or whatever way you're supposed to say it. All of these things we get from our compost and so many different things. I could go on, and I'm going on and on. But so let's finish up here. So this article now is a newer article. Now we're coming down to our time. And it says, as more home gardeners surface with coronavirus, more plants and seeds in demand. So once again, this is not just earlier in the year. You're like, oh, Chad, you're talking old news. Whoop-de-doo. News is old like within 24 hours. No, this is something that's happening now. Not only that, we're seeing that the companies are recognizing, man, the seeds are actually running out. And I was just talking probably within a week or 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, that a good friend of mine who is a commercial organic farmer, he told me that he was in contact with the seed companies, because obviously as a farmer, you're in contact with the seed companies, unless you're probably the 1 in 10,000 who saves their own seeds as a farmer. Hardly any farmers do that anymore. Like I said, it was the norm before, but unless you're one of those few, you're buying your seeds. And he was in touch with, from what I understand, the seed companies, and what they told him is, they said, you better hurry up and buy your seed. We think we're going to run out again. And so this is, this is before next year. And they didn't say, hey, buy it early next year, like January 1st, like as soon as, the new year starts. They said you better hurry up and get your seeds. I'm not saying this to be a scaremonger. I don't work for any seed companies at all, for that matter. I do buy some seeds, but I'm saving seeds for my garden as much as possible. And some seeds I got this year, and they didn't turn out well. They didn't really produce well in my neck of the woods. And so I've already begun ordering the other things for this year. I'm just about done with ordering everything I need. Maybe a few more things I'm going to get. But the reality is many of the things are sold out. And some of them, I can imagine, will be coming back in stock probably in the fall, as they're able to accumulate the seeds that they've been growing, the seed farmers. But they're potentially going to run out again. And so I'm not telling you what you have to do. I'm not trying to scare you. To me, it's actually an incredible time to be alive. I love being alive right now. I love being out in nature. Right now, there's the beautiful wind around me. There's the sun that's striking my back and the side of my face, and the sound of crickets all around, and some bees here flying on my Moldavian balm. I can hear them right now. It's a heavenly thing to be in nature. And God is calling his people back to nature. That's why we started this channel, Health and Homestead. So I want to challenge you, begin to save your seeds. I'm going to be teaching you, not in this message, but in future messages, how to save seeds. Different plants, there's different ways. Some are super easy, they almost save themselves. Others, you have to kind of work with them, learn how to do it. Many plants, in 1 year, they give you seeds. They give you seeds, it's easy to save. Other plants, it actually takes 2 years. So you think, man, I don't understand how my kale, I don't get it. It never seems to get any seeds, because they don't give them to you this year. It takes 2 years. So the point being, we need to learn the simplistic things that were just human knowledge throughout history, and we need to get back to nature. And it will draw us into a deeper communion with God, and it will also help us to be a bit safer in these difficult and strange times that we are presently embarking upon. Well, I want to challenge you, hey, if you like this message, hit the subscribe button. That'd be great for us. Hit the thumbs up if you like it, or whatever it is there. And God bless, and have a fantastic day.